Hello and welcome to People, Politics and Power. I am Imoni Amarere. Well, on the program today, we will be taking a look at the social media in Nigeria. Of course, we turn our attention to this social media aspect of our lives and the whole concept of fake news and its consequences for national stability. Now, in the wake of the Second World War, the Nuremberg Tribunal was established to try those most responsible for the atrocities committed by the Nazi regime. In its judgment in the case against Julius Streicher, the tribunal effectively held that incitement to genocide is a crime under international law, punishable even if the act in question was at the relevant time and place not illegal under the local law. Now, Wikipedia defines hate speech as a speech which attacks a person or group on the basis of attributes such as race, religion, ethnic origin, sexual orientation, disability, or gender. The situation with Africa's most populous nation, Nigeria, seems to be tilting towards a dangerous precipice, especially as the country moves towards another election season. Now, with the way the media, especially the social media, is being used to peddle fake and unsubstantiated news, we may just be heading for something near a tragedy. We are by no means trying to prophesy doomsday for Nigeria, but when we play back in our minds the profound statement by former United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan, we cannot but remember that genocide always starts with inciting statements. The unfortunate impact of the growing fake news is that the public may not be well equipped enough to distinguish between authentic and false information. Some persons see no difference between an extremist source, genuine online news, and even mainstream media, which are purely for partisan commentary. As a result, something that looks and feels real enjoys more legitimacy than facts. Nigeria's Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, once issued a directive to the National Broadcasting Commission, that's the NBC, to sanction any radio or television station that broadcasts hate speech and fake news. The minister said that the directive was part of efforts to stem the growing tide of hate speech and fake news in the country. The main concern that arises is who monitors the publication or broadcast of fake news in the social media. What understanding have the citizens by these terms? This is absolutely difficult because those who perpetuate them have no identifiable addresses. How applicable is the Freedom of Information law in this order? Now, recently, there was a hoopla over an attempt by the legislature, that is the Nigerian National Assembly, to introduce a bill to regulate online media. Some people felt it was an infringement on freedom of expression. Is there no wisdom in introducing some measures to contain inciting and provocative statements, some of which have the potential to create ethnic and religious divisions in the country? Well, joining me in the studio to interrogate these issues is a media professional, a senior journalist and a public affairs analyst, Bode Badebo. Thank you so much, Bode, for joining us. Yes, sir. Also joining us is a well-known face, a social media blogger, Deji Adeyanju. Welcome to the program, Deji.
Thank you so much for having me, my brother.
All right, before we venture into the discussions, let's see these insights from the National Orientation Agency on the dangers of fake news and hate speech. Let's take a listen.
Truth of the matter, and truth be told, is that issue of the orientation is not actually solely the responsibility of government, but it's a societal responsibility. Values make the society, make the man and the woman. And therefore, the starting point should be at the family level, where the fundamentals of what makes correct values are inculcated in the young. The value of honesty, the value of hard work, the value of integrity, the value of tolerance, the value of doing unto others what you would want others to do unto you. All this will begin from the home. Then we will have an education system that will complement what the home is doing before we come out as adults into the wider society. Now, all of us are actually worried about the state of values that we see among our youth today. Government is doing everything it can at different levels. We are doing everything we are doing and are supposed to do at different levels. One, through sensitization. Two, through advocacy. And most importantly, through our local government assemblies, where we get the support of religious and the traditional rulers because of their direct connection to the grassroots, to ensure that correct values are being inculcated through speeches, through preaching, and through exemplary conduct. The government's idea of change begins with me, which was launched by the president almost a year ago, was exactly to tickle and tease the citizens to realize that definitely we cannot build the kind of society we all want to see unless we begin to self-police and inculcate in our younger ones the kind of values that all other societies have inculcated in theirs. The society that we see, we admire, and which we can also see and bring into our country if we do the right thing and do the right thing correctly at different levels. So it's something which every segment of the society has a role to play. The parents have a role to play, our school systems have a role to play, the larger society also has a role to play, government in itself has a role to play. The government role is what the National Orientation Agency is doing. What are they? The value of patriotism, the value of discipline, the value of hard work, the value of integrity, the value of self-reliance, the value of religious tolerance. If you ask me, these are Nigeria's national core values, but they are also by extension universal values. No country makes progress where these values are not there.
Nigeria of our dream, the Nigeria we need, is the united, indissoluble and cohesive Nigeria which guarantees equity, fairness, justice and prosperity for its citizens. That is our focus on people, politics and power. It is fresh, insightful, impactful. It's a must watch. People, politics and power on AIT. Join us to build bridges of unity.
Well, it is not only people in government that are concerned. The seeming recklessness of the social media in Nigeria has also caught the attention of lawyers. A group of legal practitioners had a roundtable recently in Abuja to examine what he describes as the advantages and possible misuse of the social media, particularly and how its unregulated use can adversely affect the country's democratic process.
Is a growing global issue at the moment. Gathered in this hall are some eminent lawyers, representatives of the presidency, security agencies, the media as well as members of the public. Their concern is to deal with the features and complexities involved in the use of the social media platform and the constitutional limits of freedom of expression in Nigeria.
There can be a delicate balance of assessing the advantages of social media and at the same time making sure that we're able to minimize the disadvantages.
The above few decisions from established and tested jurisdictions are meant to be a guide in the interpretation of Nigerian statutes like the Cyber Crimes Prohibition, Prevention, etc. Act of 2015 and many others.
One key concern that keeps coming on during the debate is the impact of this trend on national security and how the demerits can be addressed.
The greatest threat of social media to national security is the ability of anybody, anywhere, without censorship to spread false information. Before the security agencies can counteract it or stop it, it may have caused maximum damage.
Section 39 of the Nigerian Constitution guarantees to every Nigerian the right to freedom of expression. However, like all other rights, Section 45 provides exemptions and limitations to how far these fundamental rights can be enjoyed.
The Senate and the House of Representatives have passed what we refer to as Freedom of Information Bill. Now, for those who know how to utilize it, you can get every available information that you want in government.
I want to implore the consumers of items on the social media to be careful with what they are being fed with. So examine the source critically before consuming what is being given to them on social media, because in most cases the source of the news item or the commentary or whatever that they find on social media is dubious. And I also want to let the members of the public know that more than 90% of activists on social media are not actually journalists, and what they are practicing is not journalism. Journalism, as we have known it, as we have been taught, is processed information. Those people on social media don't process their information. One person will just get information somewhere and put it on social media and it will go viral. That is not journalism.
For now, it is an endless debate on whether the right of a citizen to freely express himself should be absolute or circumscribed.
Alright, the debate continues, and that's our focus here on the program today. And like I told you earlier on, I'm joined by senior journalist Bode Gbadebo and of course the co-convener of our Mumu Don't Do movement, DG Adeyanju. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Well, this is a debate that has been on. The social media, incidences of fake news, and of course the deployment of hate speech in communicating some of these things across to the Nigerian public. There's no doubt that the social media is a growing arm of the media, and it is one that is targeted at essentially the younger generation, younger people, and all of that. How this pans out against the traditional media, what the NUJ president would say, processed information and unprocessed information in the social media, is of course of great concern to Nigerians. First, let's look at the evolution of the social media over the years.
Well, the evolution of the social media over the years, we are all witnesses to its advantages and disadvantages. I can tell you, social media in this 21st century is desirable, but then I'm also an advocate of moderation. I'm a social media enthusiast, but I'm also of the opinion that with the way things are going, with the way information is being dished out on social media, without moderation, without cognizance of the sensibilities of the public, then someday it might be where we don't want to be. The evolution is moving fast, but then the rate at which it is being used without moderation, without any form of expertise. Anybody can have phone, Android phone on his hand, and also be on Twitter, be on Facebook, be on Instagram. The problem is the evolution must be checked. The way we are moving, without moderation, without some legal framework to actually control the usage of the social media, then someday we might be where we don't want to be.
Deji.
Well, you see, go and check all over the world. All the governments that talk about regulating social media all over the world, they are governments that are about democracy. They are governments that support tyranny. They are governments, they are governments that do not like criticism. Government that, are uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable with dissent. And this particular government is not different. And you see, look at in your opening remarks, you spoke about what the Minister of Communication Information, like Mohammed, had earlier done. He had sent circular to NBC to censor the media. That's what they've been trying to do since day one. This was a government that came into power with hate speech, but it's now trying to regulate free speech. Just 2 days ago, a journalist with the Daily Independent was arrested by the SSS. He's still in detention for writing, about how this government is indirectly funding Boko Haram by paying ransom to Boko Haram, for abducted girls and all that. And you arrest a journalist for writing that? What they have successfully done in the past a year or plus is that they've been trying to intimidate media platforms with series of arrests. It was National Health that started it in Kaduna, arrested some journalists here and there. Then they arrested a journalist in Kogi. They've been going up and down. The whole game plan is to intimidate the press, and make people to be so scared when they get tips about happenings, especially the issue of fight against Boko Haram and the havoc that the Fulani headsmen have, caused all over the country. In fact, in many cases, when government send press releases to the media, they usually quote, I have series of such press releases that media houses should stop making reference to Fulani headsmen. They should be using militia. Do you understand? So there's a deliberate attempt by this government to suppress, freedom of speech. And we have seen it demonstrated over and over again. You see, they are succeeding in a way that the conventional media, newspapers, television houses, have been intimidated. And naturally, social media becomes the only last resort. The only platform that they have not been able to control, regulate in the country has been social media. And social media has been saving us in numerous ways. I'll give you an example. For instance, the issue of Dapchi. When the Dapchi girls were arrested, there was complete media blackout. It was some of us on the social media and Sahara reporters that broke the news. And the government started denying. In fact, they got some media platforms to say, nothing of such happened. So if, this social media bill, this is not the first time they're trying to do it. Senator Naala tried to do it with the anti-social media bill, which we killed because we oppose it violently, and we'll kill this bill as well because this is an anti-people's bill, it's an anti-freedom of expression bill, and this is an anti-democratic bill. You understand? And this bill will never see the light of the day.
DG, are you saying before you come in, are you saying that everything about the social media is rosy? There are no, there are no drawbacks. There are no bad sides.
The Nigerian army is on social media. The police is on social media. The federal government,
everyone is on social media.
The federal government has over 20 platforms on social media. They have Aso Rock, they have NGR President, they have all kinds. So if an individual brings a news that Boko Haram is attacking so place, or Fulani headsmen have attacked so place, and that's why we advise people. For instance, I'm on social media. I have reasonable influence on social media. If somebody says Deji is a liar on social media, it is my duty to correct the impression that no, I'm not a liar. So the army is there. If people are talking about fake news, the army has severally lied on social media. Why didn't we say the army should be arrested on social media? The army spreads fake news on social media. The Nigerian Air Force spreads fake news on social media. Lai Mohammed spreads fake news on social media.
Well, you have no proof to verify all of that.
Proof.
Just hang on, DG, so that we do not make sweeping generalizations and statements that we cannot substantiate. But my point is, yes, there are good sides. There are always good and bad sides to an evolving trend and all of that. Now, are we saying that everything about social media in Nigeria today, we are focused on Nigeria because the social media has been accused of spewing fake news and hate speech on social media. The two very critical areas that could, like you said at the beginning, really erode us to where we don't want to be.
Exactly. That cannot be true. Everything cannot be rosy about social media. When we were talking about the evolution earlier, the students in America who came together and started this thing actually had some, aims and objectives in mind. It's for interaction, information, entertainment, and education, just like the conventional media. But then the difference is that one is regulated, the other one is unregulated. The social media is not unregulated. Now, for anything that is unregulated, definitely, one day, somewhere, someday, somebody will cross the red line. And if we cross the red line, it means, we can be where we don't want to be, like I said earlier. And in your prologue, look at the examples you gave. The 1994 Rwanda genocide, the Tutsi and the Hutus. It was a radio station, a fake news on the radio station, not even the social media, a conventional media, a fake news on the radio station that was, dish out, that caused that thing, and over 800,000 lives were lost. Look at the Nazi war against the Jews. The same thing, the propaganda of the Nazis was done through fake news. So social media, everything about social media cannot be rosy, and for me personally, there is a need to regulate the social media for optimal benefits of the platform.
Are you saying that like the traditional media has institutions that regulate their conduct? Are you saying that there shouldn't be any form of regulation of social media?
You see, there should not be any form of regulation of social media in
it should be left to the whims and caprices of just anybody who can find himself in.
You see, and how do you even regulate social media? How do you regulate it? By enacting a law? Will that stop somebody from going to Facebook to open an account? You understand, with an alias? Will that stop someone from
spewing hatred?
Because you see, freedom comes with responsibility. I agree. Yeah. I agree. The people today who do not like criticism, who do not like dissent, were the same people who got into power with hate speech.
And Deji, we do as well. We are not focused on who got to power with hate speech, and we are. This is about Nigeria.
Yes.
It's about us. It's not about they versus us. It's about the social media. I mean, let's take a percentage of social media that government even occupies.
Yes.
It's very infinitesimal, but the whole lot of us.
Yes.
The whole of us Nigerians are on social media. Millions of people are on social media.
For one reason or the
other. And it is these same Nigerians who are using the social media that are also manufacturing fake news, who are also spewing out hate speeches and all of that affects you and I on a day-to-day basis. Forget government. Let's talk about the ordinary Nigerians.
You see, all over the world, go and check countries where they talk about regulating of social media. Tyrants are in charge of those countries. Go and check. And secondly, and the most important factor of this attempt, an attempt that will not see the light of day of this government trying to regulate social media, is that some people feel that because what is hate speech to someone may not be hate speech to another person. And in putting hate speech in proper perspective, if what you have said results into the killings or death of people, then it can be termed to have been as a cause of what you said or what you tweeted or what you posted. This resulted into the death of people. You understand? And I believe that we already have enough laws. Especially we have the cybercrime law. We have so many laws already. You see, the reason why many of us kick against censoring of social media is because we know the dangers this will pose for our democracy. We know the dangers this will pose for freedom of expression and freedom of speech. Like I've given you a typical example of what happened just last week. When the Dapchi girls were adopted, if not for social media, that issue will have been swept under the carpet. We have seen what social media
is not possible.
But it was social media that started the news and amplified it for 5 days. For 5 days, conventional media.
No, that's wrong. That's very wrong. On the very first day, that happened on a Monday evening.
Yes.
And by that Monday night,
it was on.
It was on all traditional media.
Well, okay, you are doing. I mean the steam that was required. Social media gave the steam.
No, the traditional media has.
Hold on, and it started on social media. And you see, gradually, I believe that people in the country value what social media is doing. Majority of the people that are kicking against social media are people in government, and I can tell you this for a fact. Anybody who is on the other side of the divide, who is uncomfortably
kicking against social media,
it's not the first time. No,
and they're saying no.
See, my brother, this is not the first time they are trying to stop social media.
Comes with responsibility.
I agree.
Now, when that responsibility is missing,
yes,
and you think that freedom is inelastic,
yes,
isn't there a problem?
No. Freedom definitely must come with responsibilities. What we have seen since from the advent of this government is that there has been, like Mohammed has said it repeatedly, social media is the problem of this government. He has said it all. They all say it. Femi Adesina says it. Everybody who is affiliated with this government keeps saying that social media is the only problem that they have. And we know that social media is a problem to them. Because from beginning of this government, they have told Nigerians nothing but lies and lies and lies. And social media has always been there to burst the bubble of their lies. So social media definitely has suddenly become a threat to the government. Now this is not the first time they are trying to censor social media.
Not a threat to itself.
Social media is not a threat to itself, because when Mr. A says something bad against me, wrong against me, I have, the platform belongs to everybody. The platform belongs to me as much as it belongs to you. So I have the right to say, how many times we've seen the Nigerian police do it. For instance, there's the NSAS campaign that was trending online, and the Nigerian police official handle, which is verified both on Facebook and Twitter, list on the hashtag and corrected many impressions, negative and sometimes positive. Sometimes it admits that yes, its officers has done wrong,
but you know that yes.
If I have to come in, like you said, social media could be a threat to some government official, but may not be to the government. Social media also has been a threat to ordinary Nigerians. Let me cite examples. If you go to states where sectarian crises had occurred in the past, people will tell you how fake news on social media had led to loss of life. If fake news was posted, people had to, run for their life, migrated, travel long distance. They got themselves involved in accidents. Even this station where AIT has seen a rebuttal from AIT in the past that
severally,
yes, disclaiming a particular Facebook handle that it wasn't yours. So these are the issues. Social media need regulation. Social media has come to stay. We need it, like I said, it's desirable, but it needs regulation for optimum benefit for the society.
How do you then go about this process, DG? You just had an example now. We have been, talking about the idea, has been victims of cloning of his Facebook page. Cloning, fake news.
It happens abroad. It happens in America. It happens everywhere.
Yeah, but you see, there are very many people out there who believe whatever they see on social media.
The same thing in America.
Very sensitive
in the UK.
Very sensitive information for that matter. You see, they put before you have the opportunity of clarifying it or clarifying it, something ugly may have happened.
Yes.
You see, it still boils down to the issue of responsibility. It boils down to the issue of responsibility. AIT has a verified Twitter handle, Facebook, because I follow AIT. So when other fake Facebook pages of AIT are created or Twitter handles are created, AIT has a duty to either report to Twitter or Facebook that we notice on Facebook, for instance, I have Concern Nigeria has
that has been done.
Concern Nigeria has a public page and a Twitter handle, and people try to clone. They will report every time they shut it down. You see, and of course. Let me tell you something. Why regulating social media is impossible is that you cannot stop people from expressing themselves. We have enabling laws in our country that is in place that when somebody slanders you or when somebody defames you, this is the steps you should take and to seek redress. You can therefore not say because Lai Mohammed is uncomfortable with social media criticizing the president or busting their bubbles of lies, therefore social media must be regulated. Therefore they start putting people together. They try to sponsor a bill. They try to do it with Senator Naala. They sponsored an anti-social media bill. We killed it, and we are going to kill this bill as well. This government hates criticism. This government wants to censor conventional media, newspapers, television houses, radio. In fact, under this government, the NBC now has become overbearing to the point that when people are making contributions on radio and expressing themselves, they cut them off. Things are that bad. They prevent conventional media.
There are certain norms in broadcasting. When a contributor, whether by phone or by any means, crosses the red line, it is the responsibility of whoever is the presenter or the manager of that program at that time to do what is right. You cannot spew.
My brother, you cannot spew. You cannot spew. Things have not gotten that bad.
My senior brother, let me give you a practical example. Assuming this program now is a phone-in program, and somebody will just call in and insult. Definitely, it's your own responsibility to call him off.
It is.
Are you saying his freedom of speech has been denied? No.
You see, the ability to tolerate dissent, to tolerate criticism,
because
nobody is denied that. But when people resort to foul language,
hold on, my brother, you see. All over the world,
television is a public space.
All over the world,
and we cannot, you cannot allow foul language to be used.
What is emerging in Nigeria? History is there for us to learn from. All over the world, this is how tyranny starts. You saw Saddam Hussein do it. Gaddafi, everywhere they try to do this, we know where the road leads to. And in Nigeria, we are not just going to allow it, because you can't censor the conventional media and also say you want to come and censor social media. We will not let it happen, because before this president came, it is not before this president came and this government came.
Yes, it is not about censorship now. It is about responsibility that goes with the freedom.
Yes, wait. Before this bill, before this bill came, you remember there was a bill sponsored by Honorable Naala.
Yeah.
It was called the Anti-Social Bill Law. And we read, in fact, we were in the streets for weeks trying to, we prevented that bill from seeing the light of the day. We were at the Senate for several times, and we're also planning same thing for this. We will not sit down as patriots of this country and watch people who did the same thing when they were not in government. Like this Lai Mohammed today, that is busy issuing directives to media houses, was the same person that told us that they will set up a parallel government in this country. They told us, hold on, my brother. You say if. No, you say if.
At that time.
No, you say if.
So that we cannot blanket statements.
Okay, you said if. But somebody also told us that dogs and baboons should be sucked in blood in this country. And you are saying if.
Not on social media.
You are saying if.
Social media.
Okay, what could be worse? What could be worse than that?
The Naala bill, I think that was early 2016.
Yes.
That I was alluding to. I was in the National Assembly at that time. I remember the letter and spirit of that bill, if it was allowed to sail through. Yeah, the bill made provision for punishment for anybody who commits slander against anybody on the social media. I, as a journalist, I don't set out from my house to commit slander against anybody, either on the social media or in my conventional newsroom. And this is the responsibility we're talking about. The way my senior brother is talking is as if every social media person have a mindset of being a purveyor of a fake news. No, that should not be the case. Social media should be for our education, for our entertainment, for our interaction. But when you go out of the boundary to commit slander, to spew out fake news,
but we have
that is capable.
We have scandal laws.
Yes, that is capable.
Defamation laws.
And the government they don't even want to use that law. They want you to. They don't even want you to commit it to avoid the consequences. I think whatever you are doing, moderation is very, very key in whatever we are doing. Social media is desirable. It will look as if one is saying free speech is not guaranteed, but free speech at the end of the day is not free.
Now let's look at the incidences of fake news and hate speech. DG. Some people say there's been a proliferation of it on all sides.
Very true.
Yes.
And all
very
sides.
true.
Whether in social media or even in the conventional and traditional media, we have seen a lot of fake news, a lot of
exactly.
and all of that. You made allusion earlier on to the fact that there's an attempt to gag some media houses and all of that. In fact, in some responsible media houses, over a period of time, after watching the trend of these herdsmen farmers clashes, some responsible media houses have come to realize that, look, why do you need to stereotype a particular tribe, for instance?
Yeah.
I say everybody that is a herdsman, that is a full animal, for instance, and all of that.
Yes.
But that's by the side. Now, if you look at the proliferation of fake news and hate speech, traditional, social, or whatever media, does it have consequences for our national stability?
Yes, it does, because you see, I'll give you a typical example. 2 days ago, the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, said on Dapchi that government was on top of the situation, blah, blah, blah. That was about 10 days after the abduction, and that government had deployed about 100 jets to go and look for the girls. And after 30 minutes later, the Air Force came and did a press statement and released on social media that that's a lie. They have not deployed any. They did not deploy
100 fighter jets.
They don't even have 100 fighter jets. So you can see that when fake news is involved, you cannot say it's the people or it's some people on social media. Even like Mohammed does, everybody, just like what you said, it's on both divides. What we keep saying, many of us keep saying, is that we have enough laws that can take care of all this. For instance, he was talking about the Nala bill, and it was the same thing we said during the Nala bill. We said we already have enough legislation, to take care of that, and that we see things in the bill that suggest that people are just trying to gag the social media. It's just like now, AIT. There are things that AIT, even if somebody writes an opinion, there are some opinions that AIT will not air.
For certain reasons.
So for certain reasons, because maybe it may offend somebody, but social media is that platform where people have the right to, for instance, if I write an article and the article provokes you to the point that of anger, we have laws to say, you sue me. So that's
if I know you and I can verify.
You see.
You said
yes, I agree with you. I agree with you.
People,
and that's why you can do the gender. It gives you the opportunity to do it.
There are also fake people on social media.
There are pseudo accounts.
Yes, series of pseudo accounts
who make
unverifiable claims and all manner.
Some of them even do it for mischief. But you can therefore now lump everybody together because some people make such remarks. You therefore now lump everybody together.
But how can people like that be brought to book or to be made more responsible?
Yes, the way how do you do that? You can't even. You see the way you do. The way you do it is very simple.
Let me give you an example. Just yesterday, I was reading of a young man who was arrested in Kano for creating a fake Facebook account of the Emir of Kano and has been swindling all manner of persons.
We have enabling laws for that. Well, for instance, if that's why we say,
and there are many more.
That's why even on social media has tried to solve some of these problems. That's why if somebody tweets at you and raises falsehood against you. For instance, on Twitter, you have several options. You report the post. You can report the post to Twitter. When you report the post, that account will be suspended. Do you understand?
And it goes around to
hold on. That is why once you have been affected by someone, and so social media has deterrence steps that you can take. You can block the handle, you can report the handle will be suspended, the handle will be deleted. So there are steps to be taken. It's just like the way government creates platform for propaganda. We have seen it. They create platforms for propaganda and fake news.
That is one aspect.
So they dish out fake news every day, and we the people have complaints about that. But we don't say government must die by hanging, because that's what they're trying to do with this new bill.
If we have existing laws, like you said, very, very correct, to deal with this kind of incident where somebody is faking your Facebook account, defrauding people and the rest, and you ask a pertinent question, which he missed out. How do we do with faceless accounts? And that is why I believe government is now saying, okay, let's have a control of the platform. Because if you can deal with person you know for slandering you, there is no way you can deal with an unknown person. And if the account is blocked, like you said, the person can go on and on creating further accounts.
And there are several cases of that.
Even when the person goes on and on and on, anyone who goes on and on to create a so if, for instance, if someone slanders me with an account, I report, the account is taken down. If he slanders me with another account, I will still report and the account will be taken down. If he can go through the pain of going to create, I will also go through the pain of defending myself, because the essence is, a governor once told me something very funny. He said, the reason why I don't want to get on social media is because it's too toxic. Young people insult old people, blah, blah. And I laughed and I said, for the fact that they're insulting you, it means you also need to get on the platform so that you can defend yourself. Social media does not belong to anybody. It's a platform for everybody.
But do you agree that if, for instance, you do a post that slanders me,
yes,
Badebo might see it.
Yes.
I might see it.
Yes. And if I do a rejoinder,
Badebo may not see it.
No, he may.
I may see it. He may not see it.
Hold on. If I do a rejoinder after you slander me, Badebo may see it, Badebo may not see it. If Badebo does a post that slanders me, Badebo may see it, I may see it, Badebo may not see it, you may see it. And when I now do a rejoinder, many people that saw or didn't even see Badebo's own may see my own, and they will now be drawn to go and be looking for what Badebo said. So see, the platform does not belong to anybody, and that's the beauty of the platform.
But we also know that
need to be responsible.
Government can be responsible if government always tells the truth. For instance, the president was sick. He traveled for 100 days.
Good.
And they were not communicating. It leaves room for speculation.
Exactly.
And people will speculate.
Exactly.
The president's son had an accident. Traveled to Germany, shedded in secrecy, and they felt that they did not owe the people a duty to explain what happened. So people must naturally talk, and you cannot stop the people from talking, because when you do that, that's tyranny.
Exactly.
So you must allow the people to express themselves, and that's why we are completely against the social media bill.
Well, we're talking about our country, Nigeria, now, and the social media, but you know that on the international scene, there's a lot also still going on as far as the social media is concerned. For instance, the European Union has given internet giants an ultimatum to remove what they consider to be terrorist content from
yes,
the,
quite true.
Yes, yeah. And now it has asked Facebook, it has asked Google to speedily remove all these illegal content. Well, they call it illegal content, terrorist content.
Facebook usually do it,
and all of that.
Yes. Facebook usually do it. Twitter usually do it.
So if this is being done at that level,
yes,
at that level, that's what I want us to say. Bring it down to our national level and see whether or not it's also possible, because just like you said, it's a free space. Everybody gets into it. All manner of groups and persons get into that.
For instance, let me ask you a question. You see, the Daily Independent reporter that was Bureau Chief, Abuja Bureau Chief, that was arrested 2 days ago by the SSS.
Yeah.
You see, he was arrested because they feel that he has written something that the government is uncomfortable with. Now, when I write something that you feel that the government is uncomfortable with, so you want government that naturally does not like criticism. No government likes to be criticized. No government, no public official, whether the minister, governor, we want a Dejade to criticize him or her. You want us now to give regulation to such a government to control the space that should be free for all. It's impossible. This how people in government think and how they try to justify some of these things.
Deji, have we also that which is the question I asked? Have we also looked at the other side?
Yes, I'm saying
that as much as Badeba agrees with you that this is a free space and all of that, that same free space can also be utilized for very negative things.
Of course.
That terrorists get into that same space.
Yes.
Extremists.
And that's where Facebook comes into.
And you have seen a lot of these in Europe and in the US.
Yes.
Where it's been used to recruit
members for ISIS.
You see, I remember during the war on Boko Haram, during the last regime, there were some accounts that even us were reporting to Twitter and Facebook. And immediately we report because these were sympathizers of Boko Haram. They come to be talking for Boko Haram. So we report the accounts and Twitter takes them down in hours, 2-3 hours. The accounts are deleted.
And they come back in other forms.
Because you see, the responsibility of citizens is eternal vigilance. Because when you see something going wrong in a country, you say something. So if an account that was just reported has been taken down, you see another account, you don't say because we just reported you fail to report, you still report the account. And if government if government is competent and up to its responsibilities, they don't need to say, oh, another account has been opened. No, it's still the responsibility of government to take care of that.
Okay, but let me quickly also add to what I said earlier. The European Union on Thursday increased the pressure on internet companies with sweeping recommendations for companies and EU nations regarding the speedy removal of all illegal content, including terrorist content, incitement to hatred and violence, child sexual abuse material, counterfeit products, and copyright infringement. This is a wide range.
Exactly.
Now, if at that level the European Union is concerned enough to say, look, internet companies, you must do self-regulation. You must begin to do some of these things. Why can't we also at our level also ask the internet companies to do the same for our country?
We need to be part of the global community. The regulation we are talking about is beyond criticizing government. We are talking about a wide range of societal value. If you report any account to Twitter or Facebook, it's because you are discerning, you are enlightened. There are millions of gullible Nigerians who could fall victim to a lot of things on the social media. Who initiate remediation process for them? Nobody, because they are not in position to even know they are being victim of a cyber attack and assault. Now, if we don't regulate the social media, let me repeat myself, one day we end up being where we don't want to be. Because, like we said, it is an open marketplace. Anybody come, do whatever he likes and go. If we can trace the traceable, what happens to the ones we cannot trace? And we should also be concerned of national security, especially at this time of fighting insurgency. We're supposed to be concerned about our national security, and we should make it at utmost priority that the social media should be regulated, not stifling free speech. Regulating social media may not necessarily mean stifling free speech, but to just make sure that the users of these platforms operate within the confines of the law.
Now, we are moving towards another election season. What are your concerns as far as the social media is concerned? I mean, you are a patriot. You do not want to see a divided Nigeria. You do not want to see a fractured Nigeria on account of anything, because if we do not have a country, we won't have where to operate in social media and all of that. But what are your concerns moving forward as we move towards the election season?
You see, my major concerns are very simple. First, a situation where any government that comes to power uses the phrase national security to hound, arrest, intimidate, and gag anyone that is doing something that the government does not like. For instance, I'll give you a typical example. Sheikh Zakzaki has been in custody. Today is 813th day that he has been in custody. On the whole impression that national security, we have repeatedly asked, what is his offense? What is the national security? What crime did he commit? Nobody will say. Somebody goes to arrest the Abuja Bureau Chief of Daily Independent. In quotes, national security. All tyrants all over the world, once they want to perpetrate evil and they want to remain in office, is the phrase national security they use. And we must all as Nigerians admit that we cannot hand over a platform that belongs to the people, like social media, to the government for government to regulate. It's not possible. And there is no way that a government will allow what it will consider as against it to fly on the platform that is regulating. So we will not sit down in Nigeria, in this country, and watch this government or any agency it creates to regulate social media. It's something that will not happen.
But so what are your concerns as we move towards the election season?
Well, my concerns are very clear. I don't want to see a cyberspace being used for incitement, because incitement could lead to violence, and violence, after all, will take some people's life. And I also want to see government, not because its fears are also genuine, not stifling free speech, but if we can actually regulate the social media with all sincerity of purpose, not by tampering with people's freedom of speech, but to make sure that our national security is not being threatened. I think the 2019 general election will be free and fair.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the program. We've been looking at the social media, the prevalence or rather proliferation of fake news with its attendant hate speech that is beginning to take some root, and what social media, what such occurrences in the social media space portends for national stability in Nigeria, especially against the backdrop of the fact that even in the European Union, there is a great concern for what the social media space is being used to do, recruiting young people for extremist ideologies and causes all over the world, and indeed causing havoc to even babies who are influenced one way or the other through the posting of some illegal materials on the cyberspace. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Badebo is a senior journalist and a public affairs analyst, and he's been joined by Deji Adeyanju. Deji Adeyanju is, of course, the co-convener of Amumu Don't Do movement in Nigeria, and of course, like he has said, he is a very active person on the social media. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. All right, that's our program for today. Please join us again. We'll bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power. To have yourself a wonderful time for the rest of today. My name is Imoni Amarere. Bye for now.